So, I want you to just close your eyes for a second.
Okay.
Picture the ultimate, most advanced yoga master you can possibly imagine. What do you see?
I mean, I think for most people, the image is pretty standard, right?
Well,
A guy with a long white beard sitting in a cave somewhere in the Himalayas, completely motionless.
exactly.
Maybe he's floating like a few inches off the ground,
Mm.
or maybe he's stopped his own heart.
Right. We have this almost Marvel Cinematic Universe idea of yoga.
That's a good way to put it.
We think it's about breaking the laws of physics. Levitation, telepathy, turning water into wine type stuff.
We are totally drawn to the cities, the superpowers.
It's the hook that gets us interested in the first place.
It is the classic bait. The promise that if you just breathe the right way or sit still long enough, you basically become a god. You transcend the human condition entirely.
But today we are taking a deep dive into a stack of materials that completely dismantles that fantasy.
And honestly, what's left behind when you strip all that away is actually way more impressive than the magic tricks.
We are diving deep into the world and the teachings of Osman, better known as the blind Muslim yogi.
And we should clarify right off the bat, this isn't just some wellness influencer doing stretches on Instagram for likes.
No, not at all.
This is a man who has been practicing for nearly 50 years, since he was 8 years old.
He is a serious heavyweight in this world.
Absolutely.
He's a master-level bioenergy healer, a teacher for 46 years. And as the name suggests, he is blind.
Right, he lost his sight just over 2.5 years ago due to physiological conditions. But what's fascinating is how he frames his entire practice around what he calls a zero-defect reality.
Zero defect. I mean, that sounds more like a corporate manufacturing seminar or an engineering protocol than a yoga class. It's very clinical.
It is very clinical, and that's highly intentional on his part. His whole argument is that we need to strip away the fairy tales.
A flaw.
Exactly. If you are listening to this deep dive, hoping to learn how to materialize gold coins out of thin air or float over traffic on your morning commute, you are going to be very disappointed.
But if you want to understand how a 57-year-old blind man can perform 5,000 crunches in a single session,
And we mean that literally. 5,000.
then we have a lot to talk about today.
5,000 crunches creates a very different kind of awe than levitation does. It's visceral.
It's sweat and grit. It's biological.
Right, so let's start where Osman actually starts. He takes us back to his childhood. He's 8 years old.
And he's reading these ancient texts.
Like any kid, he's captivated by the fantastical claims. The texts talk about the ability to become smaller than an atom.
Or heavier than a mountain.
Right, the cities. And for a child, the line between metaphor and literal reality is super blurry. He thinks to himself, I want to do that. I want to control the rain.
But unlike most of us who read comic books and then, grow up to be accountants or software engineers, he actually commits.
He goes all in.
He puts in 50 years of practice. He meets practitioners all over the world, from the Far East to the Middle East to the West.
He studies extensively.
And after all that, he drops a statistic that is just absolutely devastating for the magic seekers out there.
It is the ultimate cold shower stat. He asks a simple question. In 50 years of being deeply embedded in this world, meeting the most serious yogis on the planet.
People who have dedicated their entire lives to this.
Right. How many has he seen who can actually perform these supernatural feats?
And the answer is 0.
Effectively 0. He says not even 1 in 100,000 serious practitioners can actually do the things the ancient books promise.
And this is where that zero defect concept comes in. He uses an analogy from Panasonic, the electronics company.
Which is such a bizarre but brilliant crossover for a yogi to make.
Walk us through that logic, because I think it frames everything else we're going to talk about.
So Panasonic had this famous manufacturing philosophy called the quest for zero defect.
Right.
Now, in engineering, you know that nothing is truly perfect. Entropy exists, things break, machines make mistakes. But they decided that if a factory line had a defect rate of just 1 in 100,000 units, then for all practical human purposes, that rate is 0.
Because it's statistically negligible.
Exactly. If you buy a TV, you don't stay awake at night worrying about that 1 in 100,000 chance it's a dud. You just assume it works.
You plug it in and watch the game.
Right. So Osman flips that corporate logic onto spirituality. He says if the success rate for levitation or materialization is 1 in 100,000 or even less,
Which it is.
then for you and for me and for the person listening to this right now, the probability is effectively 0. It is a zero-defect reality that you cannot do it.
That is a harsh reality check. It's basically telling the spiritual seeker, hey, you're not the chosen one.
It attacks the human ego directly, because we all want to be the exception to the rule.
We want to be Neo in the Matrix.
Exactly. But Osman points out the tragedy of this mindset. He describes seeing people who have spent entire lifetimes, 50 or 60 years, sitting in caves,
Meditating, starving themselves.
all with the specific goal of gaining these supernatural powers. They want to read minds, they want to fly. And at the end of their lives, what do they actually have?
As he puts it, just a little bit of silence.
And a massive sense of failure. They missed the actual benefits of yoga, the robust healths, the mental clarity, this stress reduction.
Because they were busy chasing a fantasy.
They treated yoga like a lottery ticket instead of an investment portfolio.
That's a great way to phrase it.
Osman is really trying to save people from that wasted life. He's saying, look at the odds. The house always wins. Don't play the magic game.
It's interesting, though, because he doesn't say it's theologically impossible. He mentions figures like Jesus walking on water.
Right, he's a Muslim, so he has deep respect for the prophets.
But he's making a very clear distinction between a divine prophet and, a guy named Slee from accounting who does yoga on Tuesday nights.
Exactly. He asks point blank, are you on the level of Jesus?
Probably not.
If the answer is no, then stop trying to walk on water and start trying to fix your lower back pain.
It's a call for radical humility. The zero-defect approach is about a result-based methodology. It's scientific.
He wants to know what works for everyone across the board,
Right.
not just the 1 in a billion anomaly.
So if we take magic off the table completely, what is the pinnacle? If we aren't aiming for superpowers, what are we aiming for in this practice?
Osman talks a lot about samadhi.
Now, I feel like samadhi is a term that gets thrown around casually at every expensive wellness retreat.
Oh yeah, totally.
People say, oh, I had a green juice and did some stretching and fell into samadhi. How does Osman actually define it?
He defines it through a direct and incredibly visceral experience. And this is where his personal story gets really intense.
He hit his first samadhi state at age 19, right?
Yes, which is incredibly young. Most monks practice for decades just to get a brief glimpse of that state.
So what was it like for him?
He describes it as a state of mind-blowing total bliss. He uses the Sanskrit word ananda. It's a direct connection to the Creator, an overwhelming flood of love.
Yeah.
But, and this is the part that usually gets left out of the glossy wellness brochures, he talks heavily about the physical shock of it.
The shock, like a medical physiological shock.
Yes, exactly. He says the experience is so high voltage that the human nervous system literally struggles to handle the current.
Wow.
After coming out of that deep samadhi state, he says he physically cannot speak.
Physically cannot speak, like his vocal cords are paralyzed.
His entire speech center shuts down. He notes that it takes him at least an hour to be able to enunciate basic words again.
That is wild.
The mind is in such a state of awe and sensory overload that language just fails. It's like blowing a fuse in a circuit board. You try to flip the switch, but the power isn't flowing to the mouth.
That's fascinating because it suggests that these advanced spiritual states aren't just feelings or temporary moods. They are major physiological events that tax the biological body.
It sounds completely exhausting, actually.
It really does.
Yeah.
And notice the side effects he lists from this. He didn't come out of samadhi with laser vision or the ability to float.
No, he came out of it with a massive personality shift.
He became deeply spiritual, more religious, and found a profound sense of balance in his life.
It wasn't a superpower.
Yeah.
It was a fundamental restructuring of his daily priorities.
I want to touch on how he got there, too, because he mentions he didn't use the traditional method.
Right. He wasn't just sitting cross-legged, staring at a blank wall for 12 years.
No, and this is key for the skeptics or the highly active people listening right now. Osman was a martial artist.
He was doing hatha yoga, which is very physical, specifically to improve his flexibility for fighting.
He combined that rigorous physical discipline with specific mantras.
That combination, the body being pushed to its absolute physical limit plus the focused vibration of the mantra, that is what unlocked the state for him.
It wasn't a passive surrender. It was highly active.
Extremely active.
Yeah.
Which makes sense given his background.
Speaking of active, we need to pivot to the part of this deep dive that genuinely made me physically tired just reading the source material.
I know exactly where you are going.
We've established he's highly spiritual. We've established he's blind. We've established he's 57 years old. Now we need to talk about the blind yogi workout.
This is where we move from the ethereal spiritual realm to the brutally biological realm.
If you think yoga is just gentle stretching or lying comfortably in corpse pose, Osman is about to completely shatter that paradigm for you.
Let's just lay out the numbers.
Yeah.
If you're listening, I want you to really visualize this level of output.
What does a standard hotel room workout look like for Osman?
Well, he travels a lot. He lived in 4 major cities across 2 countries in just a 12-month span.
That's a lot of transit.
And he hates gym contracts, so he needs extreme efficiency. His routine involves 1,000 squats.
Stop. Just pause there. 1,000 squats. My knees actively hurt just hearing you say that. Most people struggle to do 3 sets of 15.
1,000 squats. And that's just the start, followed by 5,000 crunches.
5,000. I need to contextualize that math for the listener. If you did one single crunch every 2 seconds, non-stop, without a break, that is nearly 3 hours of just crunching.
It sounds impossible.
Not just hard, but biologically impossible for a 57-year-old man who isn't on specialized performance-enhancing drugs.
And to top it off, he caps the whole routine with 500 push-ups.
And people actually believe this when he tells them.
Usually no. That is the standard reaction he gets. Total disbelief. Extreme skepticism.
I would be skeptical too, honestly.
But he tells this great anecdote about a showdown in a public gym that really perfectly illustrates this dynamic.
Oh, the gym story. I love this part of the material because it's such a pure clash of cultures. The modern gym bro versus the ancient yogi. Set the scene for us.
Okay, so Osman is in a gym. This is about 5 or 6 years ago, so he's over 50 at the time.
Right.
There's a 30-year-old fitness enthusiast there. You know the exact type. Super fit, highly confident, constantly checking himself out in the mirror, probably holding a shaker bottle of pre-workout.
We've all seen him.
This younger guy is doing leg lifts, which if you've done them, are absolutely brutal on the lower core. And he's struggling to hit 50 reps.
He's grunting, sweating, shaking.
Exactly. And Osman, never one to shy away from a teaching moment, decides to step in.
He just walks right up to him.
He steps in and calmly tells the guy, I do minimum sets of 200. It's very easy, actually.
Now imagine being that 30-year-old guy. You're struggling, you're sweating, you think you're pushing your limits, and this older blind gentleman walks up and basically says, "That's cute, but that's just my warm-up."
The gauntlet is officially thrown. The gym guy looks at him and says, "Prove it."
I mean, what else is he going to say?
Exactly. So Osman gets down on the mat. He starts doing the leg lifts. Perfect form. The guy is standing over him counting 10, 20, 50, 100.
And Osman isn't stopping.
He isn't even slowing down. He hits 150. At this point, the younger guy starts getting visibly uncomfortable.
His whole reality is breaking.
He says to Osman, okay, you proved your point. I believe you. But Osman says, no, I said 200. We are going to 200.
Total dominance, just completely shutting him down.
Yeah.
But it's not arrogance from Osman, is it? He's demonstrating a core biological principle.
It's a demonstration of ultimate efficiency. He explains to the guy later that his routine is 5 different types of stomach exercises, doing 200 reps of each for 5 total sets.
Which is how you arrive at the 5,000 number.
Exactly. But the burning question remains, how?
Right, because he's not a massive bodybuilder. He doesn't have these huge bulging muscles to store all that glycogen. Where's the actual fuel coming from to move the body that many times?
Osman claims it is entirely down to pranayama, breath control,
yeah,
and specific V2 max oxygen efficiency.
Okay, we hear breath work all the time in the wellness space. People say just breathe and take a deep breath. But he's talking about something way more technical here. He's talking about cellular oxygen delivery.
Right. Think of the human body like a car engine. Most of us, when we exercise, are running like a massive gas-guzzling muscle car.
Loud and inefficient.
We burn our fuel super inefficiently. We generate a massive amount of waste heat and smoke. In the body, that smoke is lactic acid and CO2 buildup.
We start gasping for air because our engine is failing to clear the exhaust.
Precisely. Osman is arguing that through decades of pranayama, he has essentially turned his physical body into a highly efficient hybrid electric engine.
So he's getting way more miles per gallon, so to speak.
Much more. He keeps his baseline heart rate significantly lower and his blood oxygen saturation much higher during extreme exertion.
He's not powering the movement with muscular effort in the way we traditionally understand it. He's powering it with a continuous, optimized flow of oxygen.
He argues that most modern people are essentially oxygen-starved, even when they think they're breathing deeply during a workout.
We're just hyperventilating, basically, without actually oxygenating the tissue at a cellular level.
Exactly. And this directly connects to the case study of the professional boxer he worked with.
This was the part of the source material that really solidified the practical application of this for me.
Because a boxer is already an elite cardiorespiratory athlete. This isn't just some guy off the street trying to get fit.
Yes. This was a pro fighter with a 17-year career, a guy who was training up to 8 hours a day. Physically speaking, he was a machine.
But mentally, he was completely fallen apart.
Severe clinical depression, borderline suicidal thoughts.
Which is a stark and important reminder that physical fitness and mental health are absolutely not the same thing.
Not at all. You could have a shredded six-pack and be totally miserable inside. You could be the toughest guy in the boxing ring and be secretly crumbling.
Precisely. So Osman intervened to help him. And the intervention was surprisingly brief.
It wasn't a 6-month retreat.
It was just 15 minutes. 15 minutes of specific breath work and what Osman refers to as chakra unlocking.
And what were the actual results of those 15 minutes?
Mentally, the boxer reported an immediate and massive shift. The suicidal urges just vanished. The heavy depression lifted to a baseline state of normality.
Which is life-saving on its own.
But physically, and this is where we have hard numerical data, the results were startling.
Walk us through the numbers.
Before learning this breathwork, the boxer would routinely max out at 120 push-ups in a single set before his muscles reached total failure.
Which is still a lot of push-ups, to be fair.
It is. But just 2 weeks after starting Osman's daily pranayama protocol, he was hitting 200 push-ups in a single continuous set.
And here's the real kicker about that stat. He wasn't even out of breath when he finished the 200.
He increased his muscular endurance by nearly 70% in 14 days. And he didn't do it by lifting more weights or doing more push-ups. He did it purely by changing the mechanics of how he breathed.
That's the zero defect efficiency showing up again. It's the profound difference between struggling against the weight of your own body and having the internal leverage to move it easily.
Pranayama provides that hidden leverage. It maximizes your V2 max capacity.
Now we need to address a massive claim Osman makes here. He states that with advanced practice, 90% of illnesses will not affect you.
We definitely need to be responsible here because that is a very huge, very bold statement to make publicly.
It is, and to his immense credit, Osman is incredibly intellectually honest about the limitations of that claim. He actually puts a giant asterisk on his own statement.
He says to his audience, look at me, I am blind.
Right. He lost his sight due to internal physiological conditions. He's not sitting there claiming yoga is a magic impenetrable shield against all biological reality.
He's not claiming to be an invincible god.
Exactly. He's not saying, do this breath work and you will never ever need to see a medical doctor again.
In fact, he explicitly states that his bioenergy healing services, which we'll talk about, are purely complementary. They are absolutely not a replacement for traditional medical treatment.
He positions his entire body of work as an enhancer to medicine, not an alternative.
He says, I have these underlying conditions. I lost my sight, but I don't suffer from arthritis. I have incredibly high daily energy. I feel physically light.
He's optimizing the biological machinery he has, even if some parts of that machinery are fundamentally damaged.
It's about maximizing quality of life, not chasing immortality.
I really appreciate that nuance from him. It completely stops the whole thing from sounding like snake oil.
He's saying, I can't fix your underlying genetics, but I can definitely make sure you don't get completely winded just walking up a flight of stairs.
And he can make sure you don't live your life in a constant state of low-grade mental misery. Which naturally brings us to another major spiritual buzzword he completely redefines for us. Kundalini.
Oh boy, Kundalini.
Usually when I hear this word, I instantly think of people shaking violently on the floor, snakes crawling up spines, massive energetic explosions in the brain.
It's almost always framed as this highly dangerous, volatile, spiritual detonation.
I've heard wild horror stories of people having severe Kundalini psychoses because they meditated too hard.
It's incredibly dramatized in the West, but Osman's definition of Kundalini is surprisingly grounded and accessible.
He strips all the drama away.
He defines Kundalini very simply as the passion to investigate.
That's it, just curiosity.
Intense, burning, existential curiosity. He contrasts two ancient concepts to explain this, Voga and yoga.
Break those down for us.
Voga is essentially the enjoyment of the physical senses, eating, sleeping, making money, seeking entertainment, the so-called good life.
Basically the standard American dream, material comfort.
Right. And Osman says, if you are totally satisfied with Voga, if you are perfectly happy just binge-watching TV, eating takeout food, and buying stuff online, your Kundalini is dormant. You are spiritually asleep.
Okay, so if I'm content with the mundane status quo, the metaphorical snake is just sleeping at the base of my spine.
Correct. But if you are restless, If you wake up and look at your comfortable life and think, is this really it? There has to be more to existence than
Yes, deep nagging
that
dissatisfaction.
dissatisfaction, that drive for meaning. That is the Kundalini awakening. It's already happening.
Okay, so that heavy existential dread we all feel, that feeling of what is the actual point of all this routine, that's not just a standard midlife crisis, that's my Kundalini.
According to Osman, yes, absolutely. It is the soul's refusal to settle for a purely material existence.
I love that. It democratizes the entire concept completely.
You don't need to be fasting in a remote cave to have a Kundalini awakening. You just need to be asking the big, heavy questions about your life.
It's just the intellect waking up to its own infinite potential.
It fundamentally shifts the focus away from seeking weird energy tricks to pursuing genuine philosophical inquiry.
And that grounded, practical approach aligns perfectly with his extreme skepticism about other so-called miracles, like materialization.
We definitely have to talk about this part. The famous gurus who can supposedly produce sacred ash or solid gold rings out of thin air.
I've seen the grainy videos of this on the internet. It looks incredible if you don't know what you're looking at. It makes them look like literal godmen.
And Osman, despite being a man of very deep religious faith, is incredibly skeptical here.
He doesn't buy it at all.
He offers two distinct theories for what is actually happening in those videos. Yeah. And spoiler alert, neither of them are divine miracles.
What's theory number one? Let's hear the mundane explanation first.
Theory one is beautifully simple. You are just being scammed.
Just a classic magic trick.
It's pure sleight of hand. He says many of these so-called holy gurus are just highly skilled illusionists. They are preying on vulnerable people who desperately want to believe in magic.
They palm the gold ring, they distract your eyes with a gesture, and poof, it suddenly appears in their hand.
Exactly. But theory number two is where things get really wild.
Huh?
Because he does technically leave the door open for something supernatural happening, but it's definitely not what their followers think it is.
This is where his specific worldview gets so fascinating. He suggests that if it isn't a physical magic trick, it might actually be active collusion with spirits.
He specifically mentions jinns, or invisible entities that exist alongside us.
Collusion, like a guru making a shady business deal with a ghost.
Yes, exactly like that.
Yeah.
He claims that experts in this esoteric field say you can actually be trained to do this in as little as 6 days.
6 days to learn magic.
You basically form a friendship or a binding contract with a spirit entity to transport physical objects instantly on your behalf.
So the guru isn't miraculously creating the gold ring out of raw atoms in the air.
No, they're basically having an invisible supernatural courier drop a stolen ring into their hand.
That is a very specific and frankly slightly terrifying explanation for these miracles.
And Osman strongly warns that engaging in this is incredibly dangerous. He talks about the heavy karma attached to this kind of trickery.
Because it's essentially theft by proxy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you are using bound spirits to steal or secretly move objects around to impress people, there are massive spiritual consequences awaiting you. It's a transaction you have to pay for.
And more importantly than the danger, it's just a massive distraction from the actual work.
It goes right back to his main central theme. Is this trick helping you achieve inner peace? Or is it just a cheap spectacle designed to boost the guru's ego and bank account?
Producing a gold ring out of thin air doesn't lower your resting blood pressure.
It doesn't heal your trauma.
It doesn't give you access to samadhi. It just feeds the human ego. It's a parlor trick with a very heavy spiritual price tag.
I want to shift gears a bit and talk about Osman's current day-to-day work, because the source material gives us some very specific details about how he operates now at 57.
Right. He has a very active practice. He runs a website, yogawellness786.com, but he's also highly active on YouTube giving out free advice.
Yes, and it is super important to note the extremely high level at which he operates today. He describes himself officially as a bioenergy healer at a master level,
which is a title earned over 50 years.
He mentions utilizing complex principles of quantum entanglement and telepathic healing, and he specializes specifically in critical care recovery and terminal illnesses.
Now, the phrase quantum entanglement is often used as a kind of pseudo-scientific catch-all in these wellness circles. What does Osman actually mean by it in a practical sense?
He views energy healing as a tangible transfer of biological energy that fundamentally transcends physical distance.
Because of his blindness and his decades of intense internal focus.
Right. Remember, he sometimes practiced up to 18 hours a single day in his youth. Because of that crucible, he claims to have honed this energetic sensitivity to a remarkably high degree.
18 hours a day. That is bordering on total obsession.
It is the literal definition of mastery.
Yeah.
And even now today, he mentions that he practices his healing modalities and deep meditation for a minimum of 8 to 10 hours every single day.
Every day. That's more demanding than a full-time corporate job.
He calls it continuously sharpening the sword. He has moved completely past the phase of striving to learn the basics and is now simply maintaining a state of extreme high energetic readiness.
So he offers these specialized services, the telepathic healing, the critical care recovery, but he is very upfront and clear about the business side of it. These are premium, highly specialized services.
Right. He mentions explicitly that due to his incredibly high historical success rate and the sheer intensity of the energetic work required, his one-on-one consultation fees are not inexpensive.
Which makes sense.
He says, I have the uncommon ability to heal on very serious levels, and that is exactly why my treatments and fees are not inexpensive.
He deeply values the 50 years of rigorous, painful practice that got him to this level.
And this is a really big quad that we need to highlight. He also puts a massive amount of his knowledge out there entirely for free.
He's not selfishly gatekeeping the ancient knowledge. He's just protecting his personal daily energy and time.
Correct. He runs a YouTube channel called The Blind Muslim Yogi, where he actively tries to simplify these incredibly complex protocols for the average person.
His stated mission is to encourage a highly scientific, result-based approach to this stuff.
He wants to revive this lost ancient science and make it practical for the modern struggling world. He wants to help regular people improve their health, their peace of mind, their social relationships, and even their finances.
It's that unique blend of the deeply mystical and the brutally practical again. He charges appropriately for his direct time and his personal energy for the specific critical healing work.
But the underlying wisdom, the how-to mechanics of the breath, the philosophy of the mind, he literally gives that away to anyone who has an internet connection and wants to listen.
And I think that speaks volumes to his personal integrity. He's basically saying, I can step in and heal you if things are dire, but I'd much rather teach you how to maintain and heal yourself.
He explicitly tells people you can access all the relevant foundational information for free on his YouTube channel without ever needing to engage his high-end paid services.
Though he also mentions he runs a Patreon channel for people who want live daily video online lessons or group sessions.
Right, for those who want that structured daily guidance. But again, the core open source knowledge is out there.
Yes, his ultimate goal clearly isn't just to make money. It's to actively save lives and fundamentally change how modern society views these ancient practices.
He wants to move the global conversation away from chasing magic and ground it firmly in biological science.
So as we wrap up this deep dive today, what is the big central takeaway here? We started this conversation talking about the desire to fly and shoot lasers from our eyes, and we ended up talking about doing 5,000 crunches and the cellular mechanics of oxygen efficiency.
I think the main takeaway is that the Hollywood version of yoga is a massive, dangerous trap.
It's a distraction.
If you are spending your life chasing that 1 in 100,000 miracle play, you are deliberately setting yourself up for failure. You are the person buying lottery tickets instead of saving for retirement.
You are wasting your life chasing a ghost.
But the zero-defect reality that Osman preaches,
Zero-defect reality is available to literally everyone listening right now.
you can actively build a body that functions with incredible mechanical efficiency. You can train a mind that can handle severe modern stress without breaking down.
You can cultivate a spirit that is endlessly curious and wide awake. That is where the real tangible power lies.
Because it's reliable. It's statistically achievable for the average person.
It's the profound difference between wanting to be a fictional wizard and wanting to be a fully optimized, fully alive human being.
Precisely. Osman is looking at us and saying, stop frantically searching for the magical exit door from reality. Stop looking for levitation and illusions.
And instead learn how to truly master the actual physical reality you are currently trapped in.
Master your daily breath, master your physical body, master your existential curiosity.
And hey, honestly, if you can eventually train yourself to do 500 push-ups without getting winded, that's pretty damn close to a superpower in my book anyway.
It certainly beats getting winded just walking from the couch to the fridge.
I want to leave the listener with a final thought to chew on today. We spent some time talking about Osman's redefinition of Kundalini as simply the passion to investigate, the inherent human urge to ask the big questions.
The soul's refusal to be satisfied with just bread and circuses.
Exactly. So I want you to look at your own daily routine. How many times a day do you actively suppress that urge?
Think about it.
How many times do you feel that deep restlessness, that nagging, is this all there is, feeling creeping in, and instead of sitting with it and investigating it, you just pull out your phone and open social media?
You turn on the TV. You buy something online. You don't even need to numb the feeling.
It raises a really uncomfortable question.
Mm-hmm.
Is the modern world intentionally designed to keep your kundalini asleep?
Are we constantly distracting ourselves out of our own potential spiritual awakening?
That is the heavy, uncomfortable question you have to ask yourself.
But as Osman's life proves, the uncomfortable questions are the only ones actually worth asking.
Huge thanks to the extensive source material provided by Osman the Blind Muslim Yogi for this deep dive.
It's been a fascinating journey.
You can check out his specific premium services at yogawellness786.com. You can find his free instructional channel on YouTube. Or you can search for his audio teachings by looking up the Blind Muslim Yogi on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Remember to investigate widely, but always keep your feet planted firmly on the ground.
Until next time, take a deep breath, a real efficient one, and keep diving deep.